We are on air. It is Thursday, June 25th, and we're going to do a quick check-in on all of the tests for Backdrop CMS. General announcements, we do still have some free PHP Storm licenses, so if there are people who are working on Backdrop who are a member of the contrib group and want a license to use PHP Storm, email info@backdropcms.org and we will help distribute those. For people who are working on Backdrop and are not yet members of the contrib group, you can send us an email anyway and we can let you know what are the steps involved in getting in that contrib group to get you to become a contributed module, theme, or layout author or maintainer. No updates from the PMC, business as usual here at Backdrop Land. Nate, do you want to talk about community growth?
Yeah. So we have 38 total members of the Backdrop Contrib group. We haven't had any new applications in the past week, but we're still moving forward in Contrib land. I've been noticing there's actually been a lot of activity leading ports, in particular date modules, been getting a whole heck of a lot of work as of late, so that's been but we have 129 total projects for Backdrop CMS in the Backdrop Contrib group on GitHub. One new project since last week has been published, and we have projects that have official releases. And when you make an official release, it synchronizes with backdropcms.org to create a project node on Backdrop CMS.
Is Nate's video freezing for anyone else? Yeah, that's funny.
Oh.
Does my video freeze like that too? Yes, no. Okay, well, Nate, maybe you need a new computer. Maybe
Okay.
I'll work on that in the near future, but it's the same internet connection, it should be fine.
No.
Anyway, did everybody hear what he said, or should we have him go back to projects? Just try it again, Nate. We'll see how it goes.
Okay. I'll turn off my camera. Hopefully that'll help a little bit. Okay, so...
Did not help.
Group 100...
The auto just kind of cuts out. Yeah. Okay, sorry. I don't know what the deal is. Okay, so we have 38 contrib authors, 129 projects for Backdrop CMS. We've got one new one since last week, and 53 that have official releases on backdropcms.org, with 3 new ones since last week. So just to recap what Nate just said. In terms of our infrastructure, we have update checking running on Backdrop the software so that your individual Backdrop sites will check with Backdrop's server to find out what versions need to be updated. If you have a contrib project that doesn't have an official release but you think it's ready, you can tag that project with 1.x-1.x-.y in order to have Backdrop CMS or pick up that official release, and then it will be able to tell people to update. So if you have a new module, that's a good way to tag it. Also, if you have an existing module or theme or layout that has updates and you want people to be aware of it, tagging those just like we did on Drupal.org, except for with semantic versioning in the minor version is the way to do it. We have one bug with that system that we're aware of that we will eventually fix. It's not a huge deal, but it's a little bit frustrating, so we've got it documented here in this agenda. If anybody wants to play with the project module for Backdrop and the integration, that might be a fun place to take a look at that and see if you can submit a pull request. Otherwise, we'll get to it when we get to it. Project usage. So on Drupal.org, they have really cute little charts that map project usage over time. We don't have those charts integrated yet for Backdrop, but we will eventually get there. That we're aware of, that we will eventually fix. It's not a huge deal, but it's a little bit frustrating. So we've got it documented here. We have a YouTube video playing while. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Nate. Sometimes it's a little behind. Okay, so also we want to start tracking some more information. Right now we're using a port of the project module that was written for Drupal, which just tracks module status. But we'd also like to track some more interesting information about people who are running Backdrop, like which core modules they're running, as well as which contributed projects, and if they have clean URLs turned on or not. And that'll help inform some decisions we're going to make about features that apply to the 80% of sites. We can't guess 80% if we don't have adequate statistics. A lot of times we can guess, but sometimes it's a little contentious, and it would be good to have some actual numbers associated with those things. So we do have some ideas in mind for the future of project module. Speaking of project module, which we've forgotten the last few weeks, we're also working on building a browser that will live in Backdrop itself. So as you're running your Backdrop site, if you go to the modules page, right now it'll show a list of all the modules I already have, and there's a tab at the top that lets you install new modules directly from Backdrop. And the way that works now is that you have to go to the page where the module is, find a URL, and paste it into a field on your local site or your Backdrop site, hosted or otherwise. And it'll copy the files over and install them for you. But what we thought would be even better would be if we could actually let you browse for those projects right there on that page. So rather than making you leave that page and go to the other website and find the module you want and install it that way, we want the browser to be right there. And we've had a whole bunch of great work happening on that issue. So that is issue number 870. This is a huge usability thing. WordPress users have this. They love this. It's been an issue on Drupal.org for a really long time. There's a whole bunch of people in the Drupal community who want it, and it's just never managed to get it in core. I would love if we could get this feature in Backdrop. I think it would definitely help solidify our position as being, targeted a little bit more towards those WordPress people and giving them the tools they really know and love. So I'm looking forward to seeing that move forward. It looks like that's progressing with lots of momentum. So thanks to everybody who's given it a try. Thanks to everyone who's working on it. And hopefully we'll get it in for Backdrop 1.2. Other things we've been working on lately is Drush for Backdrop. We know this is kind of a deal breaker for a bunch of people who use Drupal today and love using Drush, is if they don't have Drush for Backdrop, they're less excited about it. I know for me, I use Drush all the time. Every day I use it and I love it, and I go, oh man, Drush is the best thing ever. I can't wait till we have this for Backdrop. We've got an issue, it's issue number 47. Where we have abstracted the Drupal out of Drush, and we are working on a Drush compatibility layer for Drupal. So it's basically a file that has all of the definitions of how Drush commands will work in Backdrop. There are a couple of sticky places where Drush, was designed to work on Drupal, and we need to sort through the stickiness and either get fixes into Drush or fixes into Backdrop's version of its commands in order to get that worked out. And we're going to, those are going to go pretty slowly. Every time we get to one of these huge major roadblocks, there's probably going to be some back and forth required between the people working on Backdrop and the people working on Drush. But we are working on it, and hopefully we'll have that out and ready soon. Other things we're working on that are of urgent importance is our flagship website, backdropcms.org. We have designs already for the Find a Module page. We have designs for the module page, and we're working on designs for the Find a Theme, Find a Layout, and Layout page as well. So hopefully pretty soon we'll be able to get the Find a Module and module pages done so that people who are looking for modules won't have to go to GitHub and try and find Backdrop modules on GitHub, though those of us who know how to use it can get that done that way. It's not very attractive to new people to our project to say, oh yeah, everything you need is on GitHub, and just kind of dump them into a group. So building that browser on our site is going to be just as important as building that browser in Backdrop, the program itself. After we get the Find a Module theme and layout pages done, we also have plans for adding some other new features to our flagship website, including a showcase site. So anyone who has built a site in Backdrop will be able to post their site, some information about it, and a link back to that site right in our gallery. We also want to build a place where people who are interested in Backdrop can find service providers, so hosting companies that will host their site, developers that will develop their site, designers that will design for their site. All of the same infrastructure that exists around Drupal projects today will eventually exist around Backdrop projects, and it would be great if we could give them business listing service and throw that up there. as well. And then as it related to service providers, we also want to build a job site. Drupal.org has a really great new job site that's out there. We could do the same thing for Backdrop, anyone who's looking to hire Backdrop developers, all of that. And then, of course, an event calendar for anyone who's throwing a Backdrop camp or conference or meetup, and just have that all aggregated in the same place, too. Obviously, we don't have that great big demand for all of that stuff yet because we're still so new, so that is lower priority. We want to make sure that people can use Backdrop first before they can celebrate the fact that they're using Backdrop. So first things first. Okay, so that's all of the infrastructure tasks that we're working on right now. Next up, we're going to talk a little bit about Backdrop, the project itself, and all of the things that we're working on for the next major and minor versions of Backdrop. So in the 1.1 version, which was released on May 15th, we have included a whole bunch of backports from the latest versions, or forward ports, cross ports from the latest version of Drupal 7. There's, I think, 1 or 2 remaining, and we've got pull requests out for those already. I'm not sure if they're in Nate or not. Maybe you know if they've gotten in since our last meeting. Maybe they have. Well, Nate, if you're talking, we can't hear you. But if you're typing, okay, not yet. All right, we have a couple more security fixes. It looks like 2 that were included in the latest security release of Drupal that are also in the latest release of Backdrop. And we've got a whole bunch more little tiny improvements to big changes that went into 1.1. So we've gotten an entirely new administrative interface look and feel. We're going to have improvements to that coming in. We've got like layouts to UI improvements. We've got changes to some of the status report and status messages and stuff like that. So we've got a couple of little follow-ups that we're working on for that as well. In terms of bugs and other things, we don't have anything seriously urgent in terms of needing to schedule our next bug fix release. But should something come up, we will, of course, fix it and get it out as soon as possible. As it is right now, we're just kind of fixing things as people get time to fix things, and those will go into the next release whenever it gets scheduled. And then in terms of our next minor release, which is going to be 1.2.0, currently scheduled to be released on September 15th. We've got a bunch of really exciting new features going in. First and foremost, WYSIWYG, which we are not calling WYSIWYG, we are calling rich text. So, Nate, do you want us to give an update on the rich text editor stuff? Here we go.
Sounding okay so far?
So far, so good.
Okay, so yeah, sorry I called it WYSIWYG in the branch name, but rich text editor is what we're officially calling it. So there's a branch 1.
It has been called WYSIWYG for a really long time, so.
Okay, yeah. There's a branch called 1.x-WYSIWYG, which is our feature branch for the WYSIWYG functionality. I mean, rich text functionality. And it's coming along great. We had a whole bunch of people jump into the issue and test the branch this past week, and it seems like for just about everybody now, the functionality is working really well. We have native dialogues for inserting images and links. You can float and align images left and right, as well as caption using CK Editor's widget support. All of the tests have been updated so that they're functioning, so we have 100% test rate right now. However, we need new tests for the new functionality that's been added. So all of the old tests are all working and everything was great, but we need to expand the test coverage to actually include everything else. I personally think that we're kind of at the MVP level of effort here, where we have all of the base functionality in and everything is working and there's not too much that causes problems, but we may need to do a little bit more testing to actually establish that. I think what we'll start doing is we'll start spinning off new issues issue 101 is currently where all of that's happening, but I think it'd be a good idea to start spinning up new issues for things like file uploading into a WYSIWYG, which has a couple of different moving pieces. But right now, the patch is or the pull request is so huge, like it's stabilizing, getting the tests ready, and then merging that in, and then completing a bunch of follow-ups in subsequent issues. Going great. There's no doubt in my mind that it will be ready for the September 15th release.
Yay. And do you think this September 15th release will include the image uploading and all of the stuff in the sub-issues, or are we just going to push in the first version and then take our time on those and get them in afterwards?
Be there in place. But you know, as with everything else,
As with everything else, we will freeze up halfway through what Nate is saying. I probably would guess you were going to say we'll see how it goes. Well, who knows? We'll kick anything we don't finish to the next release, yes. Okay. All right, so that is our biggest and most crazy issue that we're shooting for 1.2. But we've got a whole bunch of other stuff too that we thought might be a little bit easier to get done, like including modules that provide field types. And on our short list for those, we've got date module, link module, and email field module. Let's see if we can get an update on link module from Jeff. I know we've got a pull request for that in the queue.
Yeah, so I moved it to core, and human testing works. I just checked out the Travis CI, and the automated test there failed, so I'll have to take a closer look at that.
Okay.
But basic functionality is there.
That's great. Also, I know for date and email, we have contrib versions of both of those modules working as well. So the process of getting them into core should be pretty straightforward. It should be to take the contrib module and drop it in the core modules folder and run the tests and see if it works. Test it, obviously, as a human as well. Make sure that works. And then just kind of a high-level overview of what are the features that module provides. Is there anything in there that seems unusual or overly bloated or something that nobody's going to use but got stuck in back in Drupal 4 or something like that? And just kind of do a sanity check on what we're putting in to make sure we're not adding code that's going to be a nightmare to maintain or anything like that. But I think for the most part, the fact that these modules were proven on Drupal 7, ported to Backdrop, and working contrib is a really good starting point. And there shouldn't be too much to change because that's kind of the point. We're not changing too much. So hopefully that those ports will be pretty straightforward. And then, again, that's our short list because date, link, and email are the most popular contrib field modules. But if anyone has anything else that they think would be super valuable to put in core and files a pull request and it looks good and works, we'll be able to continue to merge in things that we think are going to significantly improve that out-of-the-box experience with working with Backdrop. So as we're working on, that's what's on our roadmap for 1.2. But as we're working through the issue queue, there's obviously a whole bunch of issues that aren't specifically on our roadmap, and things that are related to user experience, developer experience, and bug fixes are going to go in anyway. We want to make this an easier tool to use, an easier tool to code for, and a less buggy tool in general. There are a lot of bugs in Drupal still. That means we have all of those same problems in Backdrop, and it would be great if we could fix those problems in both places. So as bug fixes go into Drupal, we want them to go into Backdrop. As bug fixes to go into Backdrop, we'd also like them to go back to Drupal. So if anyone is working on our issue queue and they're finding stuff that can be fixed pretty easily here, throw up a patch on Drupal.org if you want as well. That tends to be my general process, is to fix things in both places at the same time. Since you've got your mind and it doesn't take a lot longer to do both, at least for Drupal 7. But bug fixes for Drupal 7 are still welcome. There are plenty of people who can make those work for Drupal 8 as well. Or maybe they're not even relevant for 8 anymore. Bugs already fixed. So issues tagged for user experience in RQ, the name of the issue starts with capital U, capital X in square brackets. Same thing for developer experience, those issues start with capital D, capital X in square brackets. And those are just two specific areas where we've decided to focus because of our anticipated target market for Backdrop, and things that we know for this to be a successful product. These are two places where Drupal has struggled in the past, and starting from Drupal, we're going to have to make a significant improvement to get those kinks ironed out for Backdrop in the future. So we're always interested in finding out about those problems. So if you're using Backdrop, file the issues if you run into them. And then if you just have some free time on a Thursday or on any day of the week where you want to work on Backdrop, those are a good place to start, because we are definitely merging those fixes in all the time. So speaking of Thursdays, we tend to have a little Backdrop sprint every Thursday. We're usually in IRC. The entire Backdrop community likes to hang out there and chat most of the time, but on Thursdays we tend to be most active. That's when we're answering questions in the issue queue, or filing new issues, chatting in IRC, chatting on Reddit. It's just a good day for all of us to kind of say, if I'm going to get some free time, I want to do it on Thursdays, because that's when everybody else will be there too. So it's a great place for us to kind of get together and strategize about long-term what we're going to be doing with Backdrop, and short-term things we're working on right now, and how to collaborate on those. If you can get an hour a week or a couple hours a week from your job to work on Backdrop, that would be fantastic. If you can't, we'll take your spare time, your evenings and weekends, whatever you have to offer. And if you can't even get time on evenings and weekends because you have kids or cats or whatever that you're devoted to, we'll also take your support. So I just want to say thanks to everybody who is, silently watching these videos or lurking in IRC. We've had a couple of really great conversations with people lately who have been around all the time, who we just didn't know because they didn't have time to contribute, but are interested in and passionate about Backdrop. So we love you guys too. We have a weekly meeting scheduled. This meeting is obviously Thursdays at lunchtime. We have another one that is usually every 2 weeks, specifically on design. So that's what we're working on, designs for the backdropcms.org main site, as well as design improvements to Backdrop, the project itself. We had one scheduled for today, but we canceled it because we didn't have designs ready to review. If anyone has any issues specifically related to design, we can obviously talk about those today in this meeting as well, or punt to the next meeting if they're not super urgent. And both of those meetings, we have a Backdrop meeting calendar. The iCal feed is available both on the backdropcms.org contribute page if you want to contribute by attending meetings. That's definitely really valuable for us. And on the Reddit. So if you find yourself on the Reddit and you want to subscribe and figure out when these meetings are, that's a good place to find that link too. We do have another iCal feed, which is for our Backdrop events calendar. And as of this year, almost all of the events that are appearing on that calendar are Drupal events, where there are either people talking about Backdrop, people who want to hear talks about Backdrop, or the event organizers have reached out to us and said, hey, we want our event to appear on the Backdrop calendar as well. We've got a ton of event organizers who've been super supportive of Backdrop, Drupal event organizers, which is really great that we can still kind of collaborate and work on things together. We have a ton of people who are giving talks at Backdrop events now all over the country, which is fantastic. And our first international event is Drupal North in Canada, which is this weekend. So thank you for being not the US and having an event talking about Backdrop, which is also fabulous. And then, yeah, our first official Backdrop event is going to be a Backdrop Summit, which is held at Bad Camp, which this year will be October 22nd. So we're just going to do a one-day, the day before Bad Camp starts, so it'll be Thursday the 22nd. We'll all work on Backdrop together. We'll probably do some intro talks at the beginning of the day, some demos, some how to get involved, and then maybe some sprint in the afternoon. So if you guys were thinking about coming to Bad Camp anyway, if you're Backdrop friendly, that might be a fun place to come and chat with all your friends there too. So there's a lot of events on the calendar. I'm not going to go over all of them. Just this weekend, in addition to Drupal North, is also Twin Cities Drupal Camp. And then coming up this month, we also have DrupalCorn at the end of the month, and then the Pennsylvania Drupal Camp first week in August. But there will be more on the calendar if you want to find an event near you. If you're looking for things to read about Backdrop that are in print, we do still have a a feature article in the latest version of Drupal Watchdog. There are 7 pages on the significant differences between Backdrop and Drupal 7, which might be a good read for people who are interested in the technical differences. Like, I know what I do on a day-to-day basis in 7, and I want to know what that would be like in a Backdrop world. Anyone who writes any blog posts, let us know. Tweet, mention at Backdrop CMS, and we'll try and post those somewhere of value. We'll retweet you. We'll put it in this agenda. We'll talk about it. We're always looking for people doing write-ups on Backdrop because that's good for all of us. And that's it for the weekly agenda. Is there anything we should talk about today? Any comments or questions from anyone here? Anything design related that we didn't get to in the canceled meeting earlier today? Nope. All right, Nate, is there anything you want to add? I know your video hasn't been working great today, but no. All right. Okay, well then we'll go ahead and wrap up this meeting, and we will see everyone in IRC or at a camper conference or whatever else. So, John, thank you for joining. We like having you here. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you in the future. So, talk to everybody online.